Big trouble in Natstown, man. Big trouble in Natstown.
Yep, sounds like it.
Nobody knows the organization better than our friend Mark Zuckerman from Masson. You can watch him, read all his work at massonsports.com. Zuck, how are you, dude? I know being in the losing locker room sucks. You doing all right?
I'm doing fine. Thank you, guys. Yeah, look, I've seen one 10-game losing streak before. It happened in 2008. That wasn't fun. That was a team that lost over 100 games. This one, obviously, is not fun to be around. You'd much rather be around a team that's winning, but as part of the job, you know it. You covered some pretty bad teams.
Yes, he did.
Over in Ashburn. You know how this goes. And honestly, as ugly as this has felt here over the last several days, I'm guessing it's nothing compared to what you guys have dealt with that other franchise
Not at
over
all.
the years.
Sure.
But what seems to be the problem is, I mean, I understand rebuild, young guys, but it doesn't, like one caller just said, it doesn't seem like they're having fun.
Well, it's hard to have fun when you can't score runs. I mean, what's happening right now, in the smaller picture, is they can't score. And it wasn't that long ago, it was like 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, that they scored 9 runs in 4 straight games. And you thought, wow, look at this team, look what they can do. And since then, they've done almost nothing offensively. And that's really what it boils down to. I mean, yeah, there are some games that the pitching hasn't been good. Last night, the bullpen was a mess. But the consistent theme here is that they just don't score runs. They dig themselves into an early hole. And that's why it looks like they're not having fun, because you can see you can see the pressure that they're all feeling. And what happens is they're trying too hard to make something happen, and that only makes it worse. I think Davey's message, whether it's coming through or not, but this is kind of always the way he's been. And I think it's a similar message he gave in 2019 when things were bad at 19-31. It was just relax, go out there, have fun, and things will turn out all right for you in the end. It's when you start worrying about it, when you start pressing, that it goes bad. Now, that 2019 team had a whole lot of experienced veterans who could maybe lean on some experience to get through it. This team has a lot of young guys who don't know that yet, and I think that's why you're seeing them struggle so much.
Talking with our friend Mark Zuckerman from Masson Sports. You can follow him, excuse me, at Mark Zuckerman, joining us via the Rude Guest Hotline. Zuck, I've kind of landed in a spot where my biggest baseball's it's a marathon, dude. Just 160 games, losing streaks happen. Maybe not this long, obviously, but I'm starting to be concerned what happens with these young players that are the future of the organization, and like how significant of an impact can this have on the mindsets of guys like Gore and Wood. You know what I mean? Like, they're trying to build something. They just called up Brady House, but you bring these kids into a situation that is rough.
Very rough.
What does that do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is a very valid concern, is how do you get young guys to learn how to cope with this and not let it affect them in a bigger picture and I won't say ruin their careers, but, can have a negative effect on them. And I think that's where the lack of a lot of experience in that clubhouse is probably hurting them. They've got some guys like Josh Bell, Nathaniel Lowe, Trevor Williams, who've been there before, but this isn't Jason Worth, Ryan Zimmerman, Max Scherzer leading the way. And I do think that is a concern. And so it is up to, in that case, Davey and his coaches in a lot of ways to help these young guys get through this, navigate through it, and understand how you do that. Now, we'll see how they come out on it, on the back end of it. In a weird way, as bad as the results have been here, if you look at an individual level, James Wood's still having a great year. C.J. Abrams has done really well here, even as the team has gone south. Mackenzie Gore continues to pitch well. I mean, we just seen Brady House for 2 games, but he's looked pretty poised for a rookie in this kind of situation. So in a weird way, the kids seem to be doing all right, but what you don't want to have is them kind of become ingrained in a losing culture and not know what it takes to get out of it. And I think that's why they do have to get this thing back on track here soon. Even if it doesn't mean that they're challenging for a playoff spot this year, you've got to show some signs of progress to make everybody believe that this thing is actually headed in the right direction in the long run.
Well, everybody is probably stressed in this situation, and it's tough on everybody, even Davey. And in an interview, he seemed to be pointing the fingers at the players. I'm sure that wasn't his main little goal Did any players react to that comment that he made?
Yeah, they didn't like it.
Mhm.
I mean, BMitch, like you wouldn't want your coach coming out and saying something like that. That doesn't go over well. Now, that said, Davey Martinez is maybe in the top 5 among players, managers in baseball, maybe even higher than that. I mean, for 8 years, he has been a staunch supporter of his players, maybe at times to a fault even. And so I think when the dust settled from that, from the initial kind of shock of it, he's never really said anything like that publicly before. And I think that was him showing a lot of frustration over what has been going on here lately. And asked a question about his coaching staff. He's really close with his coaches. Most of these are guys that he either played with or has had long relationships with. He purposely wanted to put together a staff of people that he was comfortable with. And when the performance isn't going well and they come under criticism, he's going to want to defend them, which is his right to do that. He could have articulated it a whole lot better, I think is the biggest issue. You come out and you say, hey, it's not the coach's fault. You can't blame it on them. You can't blame it on me. You can't blame it on the players. We're all in this thing together.
Yeah.
We win as a team. We lose as a team. That's what he should have said. I honestly believe that's what he believes. And I just think in that one moment he said the wrong thing or didn't say it the right way. So, no, it didn't go over well in the clubhouse. But I think, over the last couple of days, there's been some work done to rectify that. And I'll say this. It looked awful last night when it was falling apart in the 7th inning and they're down 10-1. And I'm thinking to myself, oh boy, is this it? Is this the end of the road?
Right.
And then what did they do? They scored 4 runs in the bottom of the 9th and almost brought the tying run to the plate. Now, it was way too little, way too late. And there's still a huge problem of them offensively. But that right there has been a hallmark of Davey's teams for 8 years now. We joke about it, but the boys always do battle to the end. And I do think that's a reflection of the manager.
Zuck, you've seen a lot in baseball, and we've seen, I think, 3 clubs this year have already fired a manager. It's kind of seems to have worked for the O's, at least a little bit of a bounce. I don't know firing the manager necessarily does much, but I know the fans are pissed and they want him gone. How realistic do you think a move is? Rizzo was on with the Junks this morning and sure didn't seem like anything is imminent. How realistic do you think a move is to get rid of Davey? And does it help? Yeah, well, based on what Riz seemed to say on your station about an hour ago, it doesn't sound like anything is imminent in that regard. And I didn't necessarily believe that it would be. I mean, these two have been through a lot together. They've stuck together through a lot of things. I think there's a lot of respect there, and I think there's an acknowledgement that this isn't about any one person and that, a change in management. You look at teams that did. The Orioles were a team that was widely expected to win big this year. It fell apart. You change the manager. You hope that then spurs you to be what you're supposed to be. The Pirates didn't have huge expectations, but felt like it was time to turn a corner, especially with Paul Skeens. They were playing awful baseball. They fired the manager. They have played better as well since the change. The Rockies were historically bad. Bud Black had been there a long time. Nobody really blamed him, but they said, okay, it's time to make a change. Well, they've still been pretty bad. So to me, you make that move if you believe that this team should be better and should be in a position to win, and that somebody else with a different voice is going to step in and get more out of their players. I don't know if they really have somebody who's going to do that in a different way than Davey in the organization currently. And I don't know that this is a team that is really designed to go on a kind of hot streak that gets them into a wild card race. I don't think they're there yet. So I think it's more of an end of season kind of question. They have a contract option for him for next year. I could see a reevaluation of him, of Rizzo, of everybody in the organization as this plays out. Now, the caveat to that is you keep losing games and you got to do something. Yeah.
And, if this thing keeps dragging on, it could be coaches, it could be the manager. Like, I would completely understand why you would do something like that, but I don't think it's their intention to, other than if this thing really gets out of control and you say, okay, well, we have to do something. We have to send some kind of message that says, yes, we're paying attention. We care. We're trying to do something different here.
Well, it's like the message is always that, be patient to the fans. What could be said other than that? Because fans have been patient. And what could they say that could make fans say, okay, then we're going to give you this leeway, but just constantly telling the fans to be patient. I think that is getting old real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a year that you were supposed to see real progress, and maybe you still will. I mean, there's more than half a season to go. But what these last 10 games have done is dug them into such a hole that it's going to be hard for the bottom line at the end to look like it's that much progress. So internally, they expected to be better than this. Obviously, fans expected more from them this year. And, the one thing that I heard that Riz said, with the Junkies that I kind of disagree with, he said that the rebuild didn't really begin until 2022 with the Soto trade. No, you look back, they traded 8 veterans at the deadline in 21, including Scherzer and Turner. And he said at the time that this was now kind of the start of, he didn't use the word rebuild, but a reboot, I think he called it back then. So we are approaching 4 years into it. And I remember him saying at the time that he felt like they were in a better position organizationally then than they were in 2009 when he took over and started the rebuild of that team. That team won a division title in 3 years, and here we are in year 4. I'm not saying they had to win a division this year, but you got to see some real progress. And it's not all on him. Ownership has not provided the resources that they did in the previous go-around of all this, and that leads to, a roster that doesn't have those veterans that we talked about or big-name stars who can help the young players, guide them through all this. So it starts at the top, but there needs to be real progress made. And at this point this year, we have not seen that on a team level. Even if on an individual level, you can say that some guys are having good years.
I've been in rooms where I know this. Zuck, those boys could use a win. Let's hope they get one tonight, man.
Yes.
Yeah, they desperately need one. I mean, we thought they're playing the Marlins and Rockies.
I know.
Hey, here's your chance, and then look what happened. So there's no givens anymore, unfortunately. Maybe it'll happen while they're at Dodger Stadium over the weekend. Wouldn't that be funny?
I mean, baseball's a wild sport. What is the longest losing streak the organization's had?
It was 12 in 2008, August of 2008. That's the only other streak that reached 10, and it got to 12. And that was a team that had lost 100 games. And I looked it up yesterday. The only 9-game losing streaks in team history have all been on teams that lost 100-plus games.
Yeah.
So is that where this one's headed? It doesn't feel like that, but there's a lot of baseball left to be played, so we'll see.
Yeah, that's the one record you don't want to break.
I know. Well, dude, so I just looked this up. They're at 10 right now, and they don't get Gore pitching until what would be the 13th. So let's hope to hell it doesn't get to McKenzie to not, I guess, to not set an all-timer. Mark, I know you're busy, man. Thank you for making time. Appreciate it.
All right, you got to take care, guys.
All right, man.
That's Mark Zuckerman from Masson Sports. You can watch him on Masson, watch all the Nats games on Masson, read his work at Masson Sports.